Hello YouTube, today we're going to flush the power steering fluid on this Honda Odyssey. Got a lot of noise in the power steering right now. Couple things a little different about the Honda compared to the other cars you've seen me do. With the Honda, as you can see, there's a white dot on this one. There's not a white dot on this one. This is the revised version. Apparently Honda came out with this and then revised it to this version. There's the part number right there. You may also need a cap because the rumor is that the old cap won't necessarily fit on the new one. Eyeballing it, they look very close. We'll see when we get into this job. The revised cap, there's the part there. The other reason you want to change this out, even if you already have the revised, is there is a filter in the bottom, and so that filter obviously can get clogged up over time. So like this car's got almost 100,000 miles. It's time to change it. So the process is pretty straightforward. We're gonna use a turkey baster to get as much of this out as we can. And then you see there's two lines attached. The smaller one is the return line where the fluid's coming back into here. Once we've drained this tank below the return line, we'll take the return line off and we will actually have the van jacked up at that point so that the wheels, the front wheels, both of them are off the ground. And then we'll just turn the steering wheel lock to lock and the fluid will pump out of here and go into our drain instead of back into here. And we'll do that until no more fluid comes out of here. And you can see how dark this fluid is. It's supposed to be virtually clear. It's got more of a honey brown color to it. Now I've got the return hose hooked up to this little extension hose here, so the fluid should start coming out here. Just basically prise upward. Put the shop towel underneath there. There may be a couple drips that come out. It's otherwise empty. So the new one slides on same basic way. Place the return line the same way that you replace the feed line. Just slide it on there. Snap that down. Now this is the old cap, and you see there's no resistance there, so even though eyeballing it they look the same, it actually is just a bit smaller. I went ahead and bought the Honda genuine power steering fluid. I honestly don't know if it makes a difference. I just know that this is what they call for, and this seems to be the only thing on the market that says it's called for it. Everything else suggests that it's for Asian vehicles, or some of the off-brands say that they'll work in Hondas as well. I'm being overly cautious and using the actual Honda fluid. And you see that fluid is almost clear, so the old fluid was definitely bad. So the first 12-ounce bottle filled this up. To get this fluid into the system, I'm going to turn the steering wheel lock to lock a few times, and it should suck that into the system. So I turned the wheel a few times and it went from all the way full down to the lower level. So I'm going to fill it back up again and turn the wheel again. We'll see what we get. So the important thing to remember is I'm doing all of this with the engine off. The vehicle's jacked up so the front wheels are off the ground and they turn easily. And of course the engine was cool. I didn't do this when the engine was hot. So I turned it a bunch of times. It's now slightly above the upper fill level. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to cap it. I'm going to start the engine and run the engine for about a second or two and then shut it off. And then see what that does to our fluid level. And you see that new cap fit very snug. So I either guessed right, got very lucky, but it's now filled right at the upper fill level without me having to remove any or add any after starting the engine. So now I'm going to run the engine a little bit longer and turn it lock to lock while the engine's running, and that'll bleed the air out, and hopefully power steering will now be nice and quiet. Alright, with the engine running and the cap off and turning the wheel, there wasn't a whole lot of movement there, maybe a 1/4 inch below the upper fill level if that. It's certainly an acceptable fill level. I may just top it off just a little bit. So here's the amazing thing. This whole flush took less than 2 of these 12-ounce bottles. I bought 7 bottles. I was wanting to make sure once I got into this that I didn't run out midway through. But you only really need 2 bottles. You may get a 3rd bottle just in case you spill some or whatever. But ours, that's at the upper fill level, and there's still a couple drops left in the 2nd bottle here. So I would call that a success. For listening when I was turning the wheel, there was no noise coming from the power steering now. Before it was whining like a Ford. Those of you that have a Ford Crown Victoria particularly know what I'm talking about. It sounds like you got a supercharger running under the hood.